Welcome everyone with another day of Let's Get Real with Mindset and Money. With me, Cheyenne, with Inspiring Solutions for You, and Michelle DeKaiser with Connecting Mamas. Today, we are going over how did her vacation go? How did the prepping plans work? What fell apart? What didn't work? And so we're going to cover it because last time we covered the trip and planning ahead and trying to mitigate some of those rough parts before you get there. So let's see how well Michelle did on her vacation today. So fill us in, Michelle. What worked, what didn't on that, that pre-planning that you did and all the mapping out of the trip and everything. How did that go?
Well, the whole mapping out went well. Tracking how we talked about doing the different bins and really planning it out. I will admit that I'm still the overpacker, so we just made one bag for me that always went in and out, so I didn't have to make decisions. I was better picking, but the kids did really good, and so we had one bag for them, and so it was never always bringing everything in. So that went very well. I will admit, because I pre-planned and thought about the whole movie situation, and have them, because they always fought about what movies, since our kids like to watch movies together on one screen. I know they can all have their own screens and watch their own movies, but they like to, even though they fight. So we ended up doing it that one night and went through and picked all the movies in the order. And for the most part, we were in the car because the car measures when you hit the reset button. We were in the car for 96 hours.
Oh my goodness.
That's amazing. The parks and everything, but altogether we were 5,200 miles.
Wow. How amazing is that?
And what was my point?
The movies. How did that turn out with everybody sorting through the movies?
All that time, they only watched 3 movies.
Amazing. Wow. What did they entertain themselves with that they weren't watching movies?
For the most part, they listened to, they did, I didn't always listen to the books that they had picked, but they did a lot of audiobooks. They went through the whole Genius Files. We'd started that before, so they went through the last couple books of it. And they also they started the Wings of Fire that Bella had been reading, because they started listening to that together. But I didn't always listen to that. Sometimes I just read my own book at times, but I did listen to some of the Genius Files. So I listened to a lot of that. Inside the national parks, again, I don't know if I had mentioned that before, we did find that guide. And we listened. So when we're inside the national parks, we had an app that would actually take you through the park and tell you where the stops are, tell you a little bit about it. And honestly, for the only park he didn't do in the groups we went to was he did the upper eastern part of California. So included Sequoia, it included Yosemite. It didn't include Sequoia, was the other one, but it did all the ones in Yosemite too for like $50. So the whole app for all the parks, poor guys.
Amazing.
So it was, and at times you kind of got tired of them, but there was this one story of when we were in Bryce Canyon about going to the hoodoos. And it talked about how the wolf brought the people in, and then they all turned to stone, and so you see the different people in their different motions and the hoodoos and stuff. I should have memorized the story by now, but I think I kept blocking it out because every time Bill turned his phone on to put the story back on, an app opened back up, and that particular story started playing. And Liam hated it. Lily loved it, so she's like,
"Oh, funny." Oh, hilarious.
But all that stuff went very well. Bill did a really good job with planning all the activities, things like that. Again, and the kindness activity that we had mentioned before, like giving kindness points and stuff, worked at times. They would give each other points at times and be happy about, but no one actually cared about their total or the price. My kids are just not prize oriented. No matter how much my daughter wants to squish them all at times, but she has so many, she doesn't even care anymore. So I don't even know what to offer. Let's play this game and see, what do you want? And they never have an answer. But the other thing that actually worked really well, which was when we were at our last family trip, we had found a t-shirt shop that did designs of Hocking. We were in Hocking Hills. It's Bella and Lily, and I guess Liam did. We all got a shirt and had it pressed on. So we had made the mistake. Arches right now is the only national park that needs a pass to get in from the list we went.
Okay.
And we did not get that pass.
Oh.
We were able to get one before we left for 2 p.m. in the afternoon. And so the night before they open up a lot more. But we had no service. We were in the canyon
Oh no.
and we had no service to try to get. So when we finally got service, we at least got noon. We were able to bump it up to noon. And so then my idea was, well, what if we go downtown to little shops and see if we can get t-shirts or something? So since we had a little bit of time in the morning, and so we ended up having matching family t-shirts of the 5 parks. So we had saw that one at the national park. It was actually so much cheaper, and they got the sizes they need them buy it from the national park store. We were going to buy those one that we saw, but they only had adult sizes. So it was like, I didn't want it like traipsing unrelated.
Right.
And so we went down to, and we found that, and we were walking around, and Liam wanted to make my son wanted to make sure we had the same color shirts. And so we were able to, we ended up agreeing on red, got the same design, different cuts and whatever, but it was all red. And we got so many compliments on it during the day that we had saw one couple asking us where we got it. And the next morning, my kids wanted one more shirt. And like, so we were going to do different colors because the girls wanted different colors on another design or something. And that couple was in there buying their shirts of the same shirt we bought.
Amazing.
They were talking about us at the counter. All of a sudden,
how fantastic is that?
Also, that we were wearing our shirts. I said to the kids, well, if you guys, because they always fight in taking pictures and stuff. If you guys actually take nice pictures today, we'll get ice cream. So we did get ice cream at the end of the day, and that they actually were a lot better with pictures that particular day.
Awesome.
So that really worked out. So it was a trick. And we're like, well, maybe that's going to be our thing, as we try to find some sort of t-shirt that we can get made in whatever town we're in, if we can find it. But we've got accidentally did it the last trip, and then gave us the idea because we wanted the different sizes, and we versus family. But they had fun with it, and my son was initiated the same color. So the next day, us girls got the same design but different shades, different colors, and then Bill and Liam got the same design, different colors. So so at least got a little bit of variety between what they wanted. So those are some of the highlights. Some of the downsides again is all that family screwing. Can't help it when you're tired, you're traveling, and my little one is in the mood to just throw 45-minute tantrums and just refuse, whether it's brushing her teeth or whatever it is that she decides that she's angry, hungry, tired, doesn't want to deal with that fact, just wants to scream for. So we went through a lot of that the day we actually went to, we were supposed to go to Sequoia and Kings Canyon. That morning, Bill and I looked at each other and almost wanted to turn around and just go home. They were just at each other. And mind you, my kids were fighting over things like, because there's 5 of us, so usually there's 2 beds or something like that, or pull out a couch. They're first all fighting over who sleeps what, and then we get them one comfortable, one sleeping on the floor. Liam was mad they got stuck with the bed.
That's a typical kid.
They're like, just can't. When I'm like, you get the comfortable spot and you're mad about that. So like, whatever you want to be mad about. So it'd be things like that. But that morning, I don't even remember. I at this point don't quite remember they're fighting about. But I got to the point that Bill got really upset. Then he went to just start loading the car. I made all 3 of them just sit on the bed and say, you guys have to hug this out or something. And I just kind of sat in the corner and let them yell at each other, bicker for a while. And eventually I'm like, you do realize your dad wants to turn around right now. And it's a real possibility that we just hightail it home. And we were probably 20 hours to 25 hours from home or something by that point. I was almost heading to, it was after Yosemite. So yeah, so we were in California by that point.
Yeah, I guess I would be curious. So one of the things that's been recommended to me to just let out extra energy when things are just going awry is to purposely scream into a pillow or outside. I wonder if that worked for kids, because you hear about like when infants, they cry because they've been overstimulated. I personally have experienced overstimulation because I don't hear the greatest. And one of the jobs that I worked at, they had phones ringing incessantly, and high pitches are one of the things that I hear really well. And when I first started there, it was like stimulation overload. By the time I was done, I mean, it took months for my brain and my body to get used to that incessant noise all the time. And I literally felt like I wanted to scream. And I'm like, oh, now I get it why babies scream all the time. Because when you're overstimulated and you're out of your sorts, then you could provide that safe place to just, okay, we're all going to just force ourselves to scream into the pillow until we can't scream no more. And it might just bring out that crappy, weird stocked up
And now that
energy.
you say that, we've done that at times at home, and it's helped, or I'll just start screaming. They'll look at me like I'm crazy. But I didn't even think of doing that on the trip, and that might have been a good thing. So, but what I did do is, like I said, I just had them sit in the bed, and I kind of just sat in the background and let them. Eventually, they actually did hug it out.
Yeah,
Surprisingly.
and that's a good way too, because they do have to figure out how to problem solve and interact with people. So it's good that you let them have that time, but it really brings up that point of, because how well do we sit in a car? That is a lot of miles. That is a lot of family time. That is a lot of trying to get your ants in your pants to stay in
And
your
I don't even
pants.
think it was
And
necessarily the car as much, because we actually did do 3 overnights to cut down some of the time that
right,
they were awake in the car. It was more the deciding what to do, because they were out, and we were having them sleep in well, California time to like 8, like when they woke up, and having more
right.
late mornings. But then since it was late out, like late at night, like we wouldn't be done with parks till 8, 9 o'clock at night.
Oh,
Still
wow.
light out.
Yeah.
And so they were having these full long days, getting nature, getting walking. The problem was Bella wants to rock scramble. Liam wants to go see more and do more hiking. And like, so that's where the problems came, is like negotiating who wants what and what we're going to do, and how we're going to do it. And then Bella's just like,
Sure.
tired, not one more viewpoint, I'm going to scream. Even let her stay in the car, she was just like, stop in the car. And so it was negotiating like what they wanted to do is hard when you have all 5 ideas going on. And my husband's always,
Right.
more thing we can see. But then Liam was right on there with him. And like there's about 3 or 4 times that they went on longer of a hike. And there was even one point, we took them up the Mist Trail. Oh, so I do have to say this. Any of you who gets a chance to see Yosemite, I don't know if it's how well it's going right now or still is, but when we were just there that was one of our first stops, it was a week and a half ago. The waterfalls were at springtime. Like they've never seen how much water was flowing. I think the last time it happened was it was like 70s or something. It had this kind of a season. I don't know if it's going to become more regular or not, but the amount of water that was flowing through Yosemite, like half the waterfalls you hear them name, you've never seen, and they were all there, all flowing. So we took our kids up the Mist Trail, completely soaked. We did have our rain jackets, which Bill almost said not to bring. I got those in there. He looked at all the kids and goes, "Are you dry now? Thank your mother. Are you dry now? Thank your mother." Got hailed on 3 times
Oh,
actually.
goodness.
They're like, we did need those rain jackets. Never, for that long of a trip, never expect the weather to hold out.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Prepare for
Have them in the
that.
car. It can't hurt. Can't hurt to have them in the trunk. It's not
Yep.
worth not keeping your room. Not worth the space. Anyways,
Yep.
we go up the Mist Trail, but like it was so slippery going uphill that I'm not good. My knee starts to lock up going downhill, that I was like, I don't want to go. So he's like, well, we're going to take the John Muir Trail back. That added like another 3 miles to
Oh,
the
my
trail.
goodness.
And now we're going down rocky like path. So it was actually very strenuous with the kids. But then Liam wants to go see one more fall. So him and Bill take another detour. And as soon as they leave, Lily starts to scream again. Like, I'm not walking anymore. I'm not going. And you could see the sky starting to get gray and knowing the rain was coming. I'm just like, your face, just get down this mountain. I negotiate. And even Bella was like, please just listen to mommy. And she's just like,
Yeah.
and I'm like calling Bill. I'm like, you love the 2 girls, they're not moving. Anyways, him and Liam end up catching up to us at some point. He takes the girls, goes ahead. I'm with Liam, but by now it's been such a rocky decline. My knee is starting to hurt really, really
Yeah.
bad. So Liam's kind of like my cane helping me along. At first, they had left me by myself. And then Bill realized and sent Liam back and basically walked me down the mountain, his little Boy Scout. And like helped me down. But it was just such a long day.
Yeah.
We had a lot of those I just know Lily's in that 7-year-old space of just like, and we tired her out. So like halftime it's like, I can't fault that because I know she's just
Oh,
exhausted,
yeah.
not getting enough sleep, and so excited to see all this stuff, but she just can't keep up with all her kids, but we're asking her to. And so I try to keep reminding myself of that as I try to be more
Yeah.
empathetic and sympathetic and not lash out as much as I want it to.
Right. Yeah, because just the battle of the minds, like physically, mentally, emotionally, you just get tapped out. And I know I've had people, I drive a lot when I go see my family. It's 15-hour drive. And I've had people that are like, I don't understand why when I drive, I get so exhausted. And the more I've studied the mind, I realize that your mind is trying to filter out all the other stuff and only keeping you appraised of the things that you need at that moment at 70, 60, 80 miles an hour. And so your brain is working overtime. And so you think of a kid when they're taking in all that new stimulation, you're pushing them. I mean, you look at even military, they push them to the point of exhaustion until they break and then they rebuild them, right? And so really when you're doing that with kids or even yourself, when you're doing new things or you have cram-packed days, whether it's business, personal, a vacation, your brain is like waving this surrender flag sometimes and saying, okay, I think I'm good for the day. And it's really, so I get it, but like I said, that eye awakening deal with the phones for me was just like, oh, I get it why kids want to scream and just let out that they just don't know how to react anymore because they're mentally, physically so done. They don't know anything else to do but to argue, to scream, to cry. And like you said, you have to be a little bit better so that you don't take your frustrations of your exhaustion out on those kids. And, ways to do that too. You were saying about the decisions. One thing that I heard about through a coach many years ago was to set a point system. So 1 through 10, how much do you really want to go? And then take a consensus. Because then, okay, if one person is a 1 and then the other person wants to do the activity as a 10, and so you decide you're going to do the activity, then the person that didn't really want to go understands they're just going to support the person that wants to go. They're not going for their own enjoyment. So then in the flip side, when it's time that they have something they want to do at a 10, the other person, you can say, okay, so she did this activity with you because you wanted to go. Now we're doing this activity with her because she wants to go. But it helps them reframe it instead of going, I don't want to do this. It's like, oh, I'm going to help because my sister wants to go, or my brother, or my mom, or dad. Then they understand it better.
And we tried that. Well, not necessarily the point system per se, but just like because we tried to have them each pick things that they were interested in. Liam was just like, I don't want to go rafting. But he likes river rafting. He was just like, I don't want to go in this cold water. And it wasn't what I picked. And so it's funny. And so he was actually kind of rude and we had 3 other people on the boat plus the guide. He was just kind of rude the entire time, but we kind of like try to skirt it while we were on there, but didn't want to call him out too much. But then we really did call him out on it later. And he's like, oh, I guess I was. So like at least reflect on it and think about it because of how. And so there were a couple times like for some reason, I'm going to recommend my favorite canyon of all the ones we went to was Bryce Canyon. I'd been there once before with Bill. Actually, that was no time I'd been there. We'd only been there for like a couple hours just to see the amphitheater and stuff. But that was one that always stuck out of my head. So this is my first chance. Like we spent the whole entire day there. And it was one day where I really felt like the kids, we did a 3-hour horseback riding lesson, horseback riding in the morning. So we got up early to make that. And we still ended up doing like a 3-mile hike down the canyon later that day. And what the kids did, Bill and I actually walked behind them and they had turned Bella into Alexa and kept asking her questions as if she was Alexa. And so we just kept playing and having fun. And I don't know, it was the best thing just watching them actually having fun together and just being imaginative and creative together. And we're like, and then when we got to the point, like, do you want to take the shorter way? We're like, the longer way, like there's another 0.6 miles or something to make it back the other way or something.
Yeah.
It was funny to watch those things and give them the possibilities and the options to do those things. And just sometimes, I guess the other thing you asked about some of the things we did in the car past time is we played they call the geography game, where you say a country or a place, and then whatever the word ends with, like, so if it's Argentina, you try to do, it ends with an A, so you don't always start with the same letter. You start with that letter and try to find it. Well, I was getting bored with geography, so one night when we're waiting for dinner or something, I was like, what if we do food or something? And so then we started doing that with different categories, and that passed a
Yeah.
lot of time. Like, I mean, a lot.
Well,
Even
and
animals at one point.
kudos to you, because you think of what you're giving your kids through all these experiences. Not only are you showing them other places that there's more to life than the little town you grow up in, but the amazing part of being able to navigate, you're teaching them to navigate and walk trails, and to, come up with creative ideas. Like, how many times do parents want to shut down those creative ideas because they don't want to listen to the nonsense, And in all reality, you're really encouraging them to be problem solvers, to have communication, because the more they communicate with themselves, with adults, the better that's going to serve them in their future, and getting around all the adults through those different events and all that. I mean, even though, yes, you had some meltdown times with that many miles, I don't think I wouldn't have been able to not melt down. I mean, like, seriously,
I even had one of my own.
right. You really, you were really building those kids up. You brought them all the way through all this stuff. So yeah, you're going to have that break point where they're like, oh my gosh, I can't do this anymore. So to go that many and have that little bit of a hiccup, it's like the memories and the stuff you've made totally outweigh those little hiccups, because when they know that they can, have that option to change their attitude and understand that, like when your son went, oh, I guess I was good. You didn't, you had a conversation with him. You helped him to understand how that's not acceptable. You didn't make it out to be a big, bad, ugly thing. We all have behavior at times. I've told that to my own kids. Like, there's times I don't like my own behavior, so I'm not going to expect to like your behavior all the time. It's a choice. You just have to mitigate. Like, okay, most of my bad behavior comes when I'm hungry and I'm tired or I'm not feeling good. Recognize that when it is better for me, if I'm not feeling good on a day, to go separate myself, be okay with just going and laying down for a moment and just be honest with yourself. And so what you're training your kids to be able to mitigate and be mindful of themselves is huge. And all those memories, you can't take those away. That's amazing. So do you have any last words to wrap this up? I mean, what was your biggest celebration, do you think, from this whole event? Because, I mean, it sounds amazing, aside from the 5,200 miles, which is a little nuts, to be honest. But
A little.
So, closing thoughts on, what's your biggest win, you think, out of that whole trip?
Well, even I added in, we were going to be back by Thursday so we could get a little bit more downtime for the family reunion. But even like, I'm the one who threw in the last activity, which was to go to the amusement park on top of the mountain, and Canyon Springs in Colorado. I believe that's the name of it. Or Colorado Springs. I can't remember right now. But anyways, like, just that, they had such a good time, and it was, what I want to say is pushing them to try the next thing, because they got so stuck in liking the first thing. That there was a toboggan ride down the mountain and they loved it so much, and it wasn't too crowded so we could do it over, and then they just want to keep doing that over and over, like, let's go try something else. Like, no. I go try the next thing. They want to keep doing that one over and over. And then we finally dragged to the top of the mountain and did the big roller coaster up there, that they're like, no, I don't want to do it. And then they did that like 4 times, which I only did 1 time. They went and did 3 more times. I was good. But it is that push though sometimes, and to remember, like, they get so content in what they're doing, and just piquing that curiosity and keep pushing to, like, let's keep trying something new. We don't just, because you like that doesn't mean we do it 20 times. 6 was enough.
Right.
And let's go try something else. And even laser tag was even included that. And Liam was mad about the laser tag because he's like, I'd rather do the other stuff. But we did play laser tag. And they even had a box crawl. I've never even seen this, where it's a big box and you just crawl through the levels. So it's like a crawl space and you just go up and down the levels. And so the girls, no problem. Liam actually got in there and tried to, look like he was going to get stuck. But he pushed himself all the way through. And
awesome.
He persisted. I was just like, you go. And so, as much as at times I was ready to turn back and go home, I think it's just like you were saying earlier, it's like taking those moments, and I think it's just that change of perspective. And honestly, these are not family vacations. These are family adventures. Let's call them what they are. They're family memory making. Let's put them in the right perspective. So we know going in, there is going to be conflict. You've got 5 different people. You've got tired kids. They're on different schedules. They're out of their routine. It's impossible not for that to happen. It's just
right.
the nature.
And when you lead with the curious mind and know and expect it and appreciate it when it's not there,
Right.
making sure that you recognize when the kids are making good choices, because I think
Which we did a lot
easily
too.
lost. We're easily lost in the reprimand or the correction. Let's correct the course. Sometimes you just really just need to spend more time on celebrating the things they're doing right, because then that clicks. And then they're like, oh, I want to keep doing the right, the better thing. I wouldn't say right or wrong, because I mean, it's all in perspective, but, celebrating when they're making those good choices, behavior wise and many other avenues, because then it brings it more in.
And if your kids are good at keeping track of points, or you're good with that and your kids like those checkoff things, I do recommend the kindness point game where they do give each other points for things that they see them doing. And really, even though we weren't necessarily keeping track of it as well, because they don't seem to care, they were still giving each other points, and they were still recognizing it and pointing out, which is the important part of it.
Right.
So, but it is a good thing. And if your kids do like rewards, it's a good way to do that. Whereas my kids we've been doing so much of that they were just into like, and I think we even said, I got 20 points by the end today when I asked, because we hadn't kept track of it. And so it is those little things, and they didn't even necessarily care or bring up the rewards, but they did keep verbally saying, I'm going to give this person points. And
but it still brings in that awareness. They're being aware, because it's really easy, and people tend to be really judgmental. It's really easy to see all the things people are messing up with or don't meet your expectations. It takes a little bit higher level to recognize when others are doing well. And so, like you said, even if they weren't keeping track of the points, you're still encouraging them to pay attention and to be aware of themselves on what they're doing, and also being aware of what the others are doing right, so they can see that, because there's always the positive, negative going on in what you can see and don't see. And the more you focus on the positive, the more you see it.
And I had 4 girls with me I was in charge of for day camp, 2 of mine and 2 other girls, and we're starting a little bit catty with each other. So I turned things around and threw the kindness game out to them. And we actually ended up having ice cream that day, which is what I was going to offer at the end of the day. So I didn't offer it, but then they didn't seem to care. But just the concept and the start of it changed the atmosphere for a good period of time. Is just, again, just doing those perspective shifts with them and giving them a different way to look at things. And I think that's the best way to get through the rough patches, to really have that family adventure and memory making possibilities, because at times you just want to go, I'm done. But it's really hard when you are out and about. So it's really, and also it is okay to take your moments in. And there were times I just closed my mouth and just sat there and ignored them, plugged in my headphones and said, I'm checking out for a little while. Like and
that's what you really, you have to find the time for yourself and for your kids, because it is a challenge to do all that traveling and to all those activities out of your own schedule, let alone your kids. And then you have the kids out of their schedule and doing their little things. It all can escalate really quickly. And so just being aware of it when you're going in and having those things in plan. Okay, when we get to this level where everybody's tapped out, we're all going to go scream 1, 3, 2, 1 into our pillow, or whatever it be, find things that can vent that act. Because obviously you're doing a lot of physical activity, but it was walking. It wasn't really getting, because your body was still exhausted, but your mind might not be. So sometimes you just need that venting, but do it in a structured way so it doesn't come back to bite you in a non-structured way in the middle of a restaurant. Someone has a meltdown or something like that, right?
No, that never happened.
No, never. Never in my kid's life. Yeah, sure. But yeah, just being prepared. I think you did an amazing job. It sounds like, being prepared ahead of time. You mitigated a lot. Like, just think, if you went to plan ahead in what you did do, how many other struggles you may have come across, but you set the intent from the beginning. And that's all we can really do with a lot of things, from our one-to-one meetings to other meetings to having a conversation or being with intent to find time, like you help mamas do, with finding time for yourself, taking that with intent, not just go sit and disconnect with the book, do reading, do meditation, do a brain dump, do stuff that really builds you up, because it does make a world of a difference on your ability to act instead of react and to mitigate that. That's huge.
I agree too, because I admit, like on this vacation, I didn't do as much of the meditation stuff, and I could feel that drain and like that self-doubt and talk coming in a lot more this trip because of that as well. I was doing a good job with the books I was listening to try to change my mindset a little bit, and that helped. But I could see the difference when you're not putting that
Mm-hmm.
focus on it. I mean, lots of physical activity, lots of exercise, but when you're not putting that space in to let those thoughts, that space, and to slow yourself down, it really does make a difference. And I could see that. And so I will admit, I was having a lot of darker thoughts on the trip and stuff. And I was getting down on myself. And as I've come back and I've just started a little bit more of my morning routine, slowly easing back into it, I can see the difference in my ability to respond and react to the things that are going on.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I as I do it more and more, it recenters you. And what I've realized is we're always seeking entertainment, whether it be short video, reading, playing a card game, whatever. We don't spend enough time. Today I went and laid out in the grass. I'm like, I'm done. I just went and laid in my lawn and I closed my eyes and I just laid there and listened to the birds, felt the storm moving, like just reconnect. But we're so pushed upon to have entertainment, to be entertained, to have a thoughtless process. And sometimes that thoughtless needs to just be in quiet. And when you're active like that on that big of a trip, that's hard to find. So it's something to incorporate as you make your next plan.
So I'll leave you guys with this note because I know we went way over from last time. She said we're going to wrap up. But the one thing actually that I've done with my son this week, I won't touch him more on the other stuff he's done later. But last couple of days is I have been intrigued by Qigong. And so I found a program for us through the Mind Valley app that I've already had. And so we together have started a Qigong going through the course together. So what I invite you moms to do is look at things you're interested in doing and then invite. I didn't expect him. And I said, let's just do the first one, or do you want to give it a try? If you don't like it, don't have to do it again. But he's like, try. Okay, let's do that. And so I think that's where we need to be more with the inviting, but also inviting things that we want to do. And if that one didn't work out, I'll try something else.
Yeah, absolutely. That's all you can do, and be to share, because how many times do you do things to build yourself up and forget to bring your kids in? I know I've done that plenty of times and went, why am I not sharing this with my kids? I want them to, start this early, not be, in their age of my age, and go, oh man, this is such a struggle when they could have had these tools that I've been using myself for a long time.
I'm trying not to go ahead, but then tomorrow morning, I think I want to do it in the morning. So I'm going to do the one we did today in the morning by myself when I get up. But I think but it was nice. It felt really good just having him there and doing it with him rather than
awesome
that we could do together. So I'll leave you with that note, is to find things of this nature to do with your kids. But again, as I was telling my son, stop dictating to them or expecting or preaching. It's all about inviting what appeals to them and their souls, and just keep inviting so they find the right offer that works for them.
Yep, and leaving it okay with the outcome if they choose not to join you, because they will at some point. They'll start to see the change in you, and then they'll want to change too, or they'll want to be that calm, because they will be attracted to that calm energy that you emit when you're giving yourself time. So, well, fantastic. What a wonderful filled conversation again today. Thank you all for joining us on Let's Get Real with Mindset and Money for another lengthy conversation. Join us again. We'll have another one soon. Take care, guys.